Alrighty, y'all. Welcome back to the channel. So today we have another splitting axe overview. About 2 to 3 weeks ago, I made a video on the Milwaukee 26-inch splitting axe. And if you haven't already, I'd recommend you check out that video. But like the Milwaukee, this one was also a Christmas gift. And an interesting thing is, I don't have much experience with splitting axes at all. What I'm used to using is probably more than half the time I use splitting wedges, but splitting mauls. And this was my first real splitter. I got this, I want to say 2020, 2021 or so. Council tool, 6 pound. Council tool, I believe, discontinued the 6 and the 8. Now they make a 7, but this has been my primary splitter, and it's worked pretty well for me. Yeah, and after holding them all, just picking this up, it feels so much lighter. So it'll be interesting to try out a little bit lighter axe. Splitting with this, I mean, I've split just a little bit because most of our wood is already split. So I had to find odds and ends. And a few pieces that I split were pieces that were already split in half. So, a log split in half. And then I just quartered it. And it was straight grained, not even that large. So this worked perfectly fine for that. And I imagine that's kind of what it is smaller straight grained logs. So starting off with the head here, you guys can see it's just absolutely beautiful. And that's part of why I love it. You can see it's got a raised portion in the middle to reduce friction, so you're only touching on the middle and not the edges. And it's a very squarish design. If I haven't mentioned it already, this is called a Scandinavian style. Pretty straight, but does taper upward a little bit, tapers downward a little bit there. Edges very straight. And these are called lugs, where it goes down onto the handle like that. That's supposed to be so you get a tighter fit. I'm sure part of it is cosmetic, but that's the functional part of it. And yeah, just a very pretty splitting axe. The head weight on this is 3.35 pounds. It's 1045 carbon steel. And one thing about these Prandis is I have 2 of their hatchets. Their hangs are the worst that I've seen on brand new axes. You can see there's a big gap there, missing a chunk of the wedge there. And then you can see it's got gaps at the bottom as well. Now, on both of my hatchets, those also had bad hangs. I'd say they were worse than this, or at least one of them was worse than this. And I was able to fix it by tapping the bottom side of the handle to get the head seated down more. Those round wedges, you can take a crappy socket. You don't want to use a good one by any means. You just tap them down more. And then I also take a little steel flat wedge, because oftentimes when you pound the round wedges in just a little bit more, at least with my other hatchet, it would tighten it up, but first few swings it would loosen up just a little bit, and then you pound a flat wedge in and it stays tight. So that's how I solved the problem. I haven't done anything with this one yet, but that's how I would approach it. If you have some basic knowledge, some simple tools, it won't be a problem for you. Now, as for the handle, it's got like varnish on it, which I hate. To me, if you're wearing gloves, it feels slippery. If you're just using it, it feels sort of slippery, but also it kind of grips your hands and like gives you blisters. It's just not great. If you're throwing your axe in a pond, then I'm sure it would protect it better than just boiled linseed oil. Boiled linseed oil it's kind of like mink oil for leather. Like, if your axe gets rained on, snowed on, it will dry out. But, just take care of your tools. That's all I have to say about that. So yeah, handle is fairly thick. That comes down to personal preference. I think it should be thicker for a splitter because it's going to take more wear and tear. It's going to get over strikes. Now, the end of the handle here, I'll show you guys the grain orientation. It's acceptable. I mean, ideally, I'd like as close to, perfectly up and down as I can, but this should be acceptable. Prandi also, with all their axes and mauls, they drill a hole in them, put a piece of leather in there. I don't really think it's necessary, but it is, nice to have because that way you could hang them. Personally, how I store my axes, I just have round pegs and they just sit on them like that. So overall, just besides the hang, I would say this looks nice. It feels nice. I can't attest too much to the splitting performance, but I have to imagine it is a lighter weight tool. It's probably going to be straight grained, quartering, that sort of thing. But what do you guys think about it? Leave it in the comments down below. Disagree, agree, neutral. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free to check out some of my other videos. God bless, and see you on the next one.